that GQ magazine named a top CBD product, and a topical CBD balm that is simply the bomb. So relax and feel better naturally with the H-Hemp CBD system, available at hemp.com.
You know, my mom always said, do something well or not at all. Frosted Art Bakery has been around a long time, almost 70 years, doing it well. I was so impressed with the cake that I asked them to make for our special guest, Jen Sincero, the author of the book, You Are a Badass. They actually made a cake that looked exactly like the book. It was incredible. But I guess I shouldn't have been surprised because Frosted Art Bakery has a reputation for being one of the best bakeries in the Metroplex, serving Dallas, Plano, Frisco, Addison, the Colony, and South Lake. Life is short and you only get one. Enjoy a slice of Frosted Art today. Find them at frostedart.com. That's frostedart.com.
Did you know there are over 3,000 kinds of snakes? And most, being shy, pose no threat to humans. But they are still feared and killed even for frivolous fashion. In his poem Snake, D.H. Lawrence marvels at a snake drinking from a water trough. He succumbs to irrational fear and impulsively throws a log at the very animal he admired moments before. He writes, "And immediately I regretted it. I thought how paltry, how vulgar, what a mean act. I despised myself and the voices of my accursed human education, and I wished he would come back, my snake, for he seemed to me again like a king in exile, uncrowned in the underworld." This is Ingrid Newkirk with Peter, reminding us it's easy to be kind by choosing fake snake over real skin for belts, bags, and shoes.
I hold you in my arms.
Welcome back, everyone, to One Life Radio. This is Bernadette with Diamond Gray, Aviana Berrientos, Shawn Wells, and Cassie Bjork. I want to, tell people who you are, Shawn, before we get to Cassie, because I'm going to ask both of you some questions here on this segment. And we're talking about heart health and the misconceptions regarding cholesterol. Shawn Wells is a registered dietitian, a certified sports nutritionist, and fellow through the International Society of Sports Nutrition, and has his Master's of Public Health and Nutritional Biochemistry. And Cassie Bjork is a globally recognized industry leader in weight loss and a highly sought-after speaker and a #1 best-selling author of the book, Why Am I Still Fat? The Hidden Keys to Unlocking That Stubborn Weight Loss. Cassie and her team identify the missing puzzle pieces for health and weight loss, which conventional doctors and nutritionists often miss. And she provides her clients with a full picture of how their bodies function. Cassie speaks widely, wildly, both, and contributes to a regular column in Paleo Magazine titled Real Talk with Dietitian Cassie. Always a pleasure. You can find Cassie at cassie.net. How are you doing today?
I'm doing so great. Wild like usual, Bern.
Okay.
She's very smart, and she's much prettier than I am.
She is. She's darling. And we'll see you at Paleo FX here. And are you going this year?
Yeah, I'm a keynote speaker on the main stage at Paleo
Oh,
FX.
nice. Nice.
We'll have to record another podcast after the broadcast with her.
Absolutely.
For the anniversary.
She was the one that did the first one with us at Paleo FX last year.
Awesome.
And a lot of people are going this year. It's growing in popularity because people really want to be healthy and they want to understand their heart health and their mitochondria and their cholesterol and all these things that we talk about on One Life Radio regularly. So, we're talking about heart health, as I said, and the misconceptions regarding cholesterol. So the guidelines regarding heart health are constantly changing, Cassie. Why is there such a misconception around cholesterol?
I'm so glad you bring this up. And I love to just break things down and help people to just understand how the body and the science actually works and keep it simple. Because like you said, there's so much mixed information out there. And heart health is the #1 cause of death in the United States. And I think that it's one of the most confusing topics in the realm of nutrition. And I think one of the reasons why is, we have a really big misunderstanding of cholesterol. We've been told for so long that it clogs your arteries, and when you eat a lot of wax-like cholesterol and flubbery fat, these substances stick to the walls of your arteries and vessels and clog them and can lead to heart disease. And I think that when we think about, visuals like that imagery is just so vivid And it's easy to just believe that. But the reality is, at face value, that explanation seems to make sense. But the truth is that your internal body temperature wouldn't even allow cholesterol to stick to your vessel walls because it would melt. But because these images are so powerful, it's hard to overcome these misconceptions that were, put in our brains years and years ago. So I think that we kind of have to look at it in a different way. And one of the things with cholesterol that I think is surprising for a lot of people is that it's actually necessary. Without cholesterol, you would die. Mm-hmm. And it's so essential that if your body doesn't get enough of it from the food you're eating, it will naturally produce it.
Yeah.
So we have to look at kind of with heart disease. We talked about this, a couple of weeks ago, and I love that we're revisiting this topic. It's such an important one. And when it comes to heart disease, I think Shawn and I both agreed as registered dietitians that, the inflammation is actually what's more at the root of heart disease. The answer of just driving your total cholesterol number to the ground isn't the best solution.
Well, let's talk about the history, because I think it's important. I think that people embrace things better when they understand the history of how it happened. Mm-hmm. Can we start at the beginning and give a brief history? Shawn, do you want to start with the history? I know we've talked about it many times.
With Ancel Keys?
Yes, because this is very critical, because at the root of it is sugar, right, you guys?
Mm-hmm. Sugar definitely plays a role, and definitely the data from Ancel Keys was epidemiologic, meaning it's looking at populational level stuff, and you're just making what's called correlations instead of causation, and sometimes that can be dangerous. And it does seem like there was an agenda there. And what happened was when we went low fat, we got rid of a lot of whole food, and a lot of processed food came in to provide that satiety. Well, and that's where we got high sugar that replaced the high fat. And we got tons of processed foods, literally right at that time. And all these things that had low fat on the label were the things that were killing us, because they were high sugar. And when we lost the whole food, the steaks and the butter, and we got instead margarine and cookies and crap.
Well, high fructose corn syrup was introduced in the 60s, was it not? That's when it was introduced and went really mainstream, in the 70s?
Sounds right, yeah.
And it was really introduced as a way, they know that we get hooked on that stuff. I think that's one of the big problems here, is that a lot of these research studies are sponsored by companies who really hope to sway the outcome in their favor. Mm-hmm. And that causes a lot of confusion. And then when this advice is given, a lot of times it backfires because it's not actually based on science. And I think that's what's so confusing. In looking at heart health, the good news is the science is publicized. It really debunks a lot of these old myths. We know that saturated fat and dietary cholesterol are not linked to heart disease, yet at least once a year, there's a big, news flash article that comes out saying that there's all this new information and new news. And a lot of times what they do is reviews on past studies, quote unquote, or existing data, which we already know is swayed based on, sponsorships and big food money. And it can get really, really shady. And I think that's really frustrating. But the scariest part about it is a lot of people don't realize that.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but the sugar contributes to the inflammation of the artery walls, correct?
Yeah, glycation.
Okay.
One of the things,
exactly.
Cassie.
And I like to think of it kind of cholesterol acts as a protective mechanism, so it heals the damage caused by. I like visuals. I like to think of sugar as little pieces of glass that are kind of cutting up our vessels and arteries. And when that happens, when we're eating a lot of sugar and this damage is happening, cholesterol is actually the hero, not the villain. So it's the hero. I think of it like there's a fire, and when the crew of firefighters come to put out the fire, if we blamed the firefighters for putting out the fire, that would be ridiculous. But that's exactly what happens when we blame cholesterol for heart disease, because the cholesterol is simply coming to the rescue to heal your body of this inflammation that's happening because of the sugar.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah, no, it makes so much sense. So let me ask you this, you guys, both of you. What's your favorite breakfast?
Fasting.
Mine is,
I know. Yeah, I'm fasting right now too. So I used to eat breakfast, a protein shake, typically Sun Warrior or a Metaclear Biothorn, but right now I'm doing the intermittent fasting. But if you were going to eat a healthy breakfast, a good way to start the day, how would you start? What would you two both eat?
I like eggs.
Eggs?
That's what I have, yeah.
Eggs? And
yeah, butter and eggs are so good for your heart. So at breakfast, I try to have both. I have a couple eggs for protein, and then for healthy fat, I'll use either coconut oil or butter because, that saturated fat does not increase our risk for heart disease. It can actually help to protect your heart by helping to heal that inflammation. I always try to think PFC, so protein, fat, and carbs. I think it's good to have like a good balance. And obviously something different works for everyone. Some people fasting works, some people like keto or really higher fat diet works. And for me, having eggs for protein, coconut oil or butter for fat. And then for carbs, I might have, some spinach or sweet potato thought in there. Delicious, nutritious, heart healthy.
And it's really worth it, the extra investment, I think, in pasture-raised eggs for a lot of reasons. They're much higher in the nutrients that your body needs, and they also are not tortured animals. And that's really important to me. But, okay, so let me ask you this, because so many people say, well, how do you choose a healthy heart oil or a heart-healthy oil? What are your top, heart-healthy oils that you would suggest that people start using, both for cooking and then just, as a, like a side accoutrement, if you will?
Yeah, I think coconut oil is great. I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that vegetable oil is healthy because vegetable oil isn't even made from vegetables and can be super inflammatory and like one of the worst things for your heart. So I would say, coconut oil always makes my number one, top of the charts. It's made of medium chain triglycerides, those MCTs, which are a type of fat that are digested really quickly, and they're kind of known for their great energy and metabolism boosting effects. What about you, Shawn? I mean, I like olive oil too.
I do. Olive oil, I think the one thing you might want to watch for is the smoke point. Yeah,
that's what I was thinking.
I like to add it after, unless you're doing like low temp saute stuff, but I like to add it after. But I agree with her. Like using butter or coconut oil would be like my go-tos for cooking.
What about avocado oil?
Yeah, that's pretty good. That has a higher smoke point.
Smoke point,
Yeah.
And just kind of remember a good rule of thumb is that unrefined things are always better for you than refined things.
Absolutely.
So I look for words like unrefined, virgin, organic, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay, you two. I'm going to ask you this question, and then we're going to go to break. What are 5 ways to support your heart today?
Go, Cassie.
Okay, so my 5 would be de-stress, because stress can definitely cause damage to your arteries and and your heart. I'm trying to go for like some non-food ones. I love talking about food, but food related, eat less sugar and fewer processed carbohydrates. And I like to add things instead of just taking away. So I would say add in those healthy fats. Aiming for PFC balance, so making sure you're not just eating a lot of carbs, but having protein and fat with the carbs, and then get your heart pumping. You don't have to run a marathon to support your heart. Actually, that can kind of do the opposite. That's another story. Yeah. But I would say, get your heart pumping, do some short, efficient workouts like the high intensity interval workouts, CrossFit style, just short heart pumping is really, really good.
Yeah. And that's it?
I love that. No,
love it?
That's so good. Well, no, I was actually just reading a study the other day that just said it's crazy, but even 5-minute movement, brisk walk to the car, going up the stairs.
Yep.
They looked at, I can't remember where the study was, but it was 2 or 3 times a day of just doing this 5-minute kind of burst exercise that doesn't involve a gym, doesn't involve a marathon, just normal day-to-day stuff. And it made a massive difference in health.
I'm going to start taking the stairs, I think, with my big heavy bags every day.
Oh, man.
That's a hit. That's a hit training right there. Absolutely.
I love the small changes. I think we get so obsessive and think we have to go on these strict diets. And if we're going to exercise, we've got to run marathons. And I think it's just so great to just bring it back to that balance in life. And that's why even with heart health, it's not just about food. It's not just about exercise. We've got to look at our stress levels and make sure we're sleeping enough. And if we are taking supplements, make sure they're not the crappy ones, make sure they're high quality. And we have to kind of look at the big picture. So I love that you brought that up, Shawn, because these small changes can make a huge difference.
Absolutely. It's always great having you on the air with us, Cassie.
She's amazing.
She is amazing. I'll see you in a few weeks.
Thanks, you guys.
We'll have to go out for some skinny margaritas.
Oh, that's my jam.
All right.
I love it. Mine too.
Oh, my gosh. Well, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Bye, Cassie.
All right. And you can find Cassie Bjork at cassie.net. That's CASSIE.net. Stay tuned. More coming up with Shawn Wells. You're listening to One Life Radio.
Hi, I'm Eli Roth for PETA. While violence in the movies is make-believe, sadly, violence against animals is all too real. Countless animals are tortured and abused every day, and most of the time these crimes go unreported. If you know of someone who is abusing an animal, please tell the police or tell an adult. People who get